I noticed money disappearing from our account, but my husband always had an excuse. Your mother needed another repair? I asked. He told me not to worry. Then I overheard their real plan. Don't tell her yet. We've already spent nearly $20,000. I had just come home early from a work trip. My suitcase was still beside me when I heard Russell talking in the kitchen. His phone was on speaker, and his mother's voice carried into the hallway. Brenda said, "You can't keep hiding the transfers. She checks the accounts." I know, Russell replied. But don't tell her yet. We've already spent nearly $20,000. If she hears the amount before I explain everything, she'll lose it. I stopped walking. For almost a year, I had noticed small payments going to Brenda. The first was $600. Russell said she was behind on property taxes. The next time, her heating system needed repairs. After that, it was dental work. Then her car needed fixing. Each explanation sounded believable. The amounts were usually small enough that I didn't push. I didn't want to be the suspicious wife demanding receipts from an older woman who needed help. Russell and I had been married for 8 years. Most of our money went into one account. We paid the bills, saved what we could, and gave ourselves equal spending money. I earned more, but that had never bothered me. He handled more around the house when I traveled, and I thought the arrangement was fair. Then Brenda asked, "What happens after the mortgage is paid off?" Russell answered, "We start the regular payments." "And you really think she'll agree to $1,800 a month?" He gave a quiet laugh. "She'll be angry, but she won't let you struggle. Paige doesn't know how to say no when family is involved. What if she tells me to sell?" "She won't. You don't know that. It's my money too. She's not going to force my mother out of her home." The wheel of my suitcase bumped against the wall. Russell turned around. Brenda asked, "What was that?" I walked into the kitchen. That was me. The call ended immediately. Russell stared at his phone, then looked at me. "You're home early. My last meeting was cancelled." He nodded as if that explained the real problem. I asked, "What regular payments?" "Paige, it's complicated." It sounded organized. He reached toward my suitcase. I pulled it away. "Sit down," he said. "Let me explain." "I'll stand." He took a breath. "My mom has been having financial problems." "I know. I've apparently been paying for them." "That isn't fair." "What part isn't fair?" "The transfers or the part where you promised her $1,800 a month without asking me?" He rubbed his forehead. "She's in trouble." "Then tell me what happened." For several seconds, he said nothing. I opened my laptop on the kitchen counter. "What are you doing?" he asked. "Looking at the accounts." "Can you let me explain first?" "You've had almost a year." That was when he admitted Brenda had lost most of her retirement savings. About 18 months earlier, she joined an online group about retirement investing. A man calling himself Neil contacted her privately and claimed he helped older investors earn safer returns. He started with basic financial advice. Then he convinced her to place a small amount into what he called an international investment fund. The fake account showed immediate profits. When she added more money, the balance kept increasing. By the time she tried to withdraw anything, the supposed investment was worth almost twice what she had deposited. Then came the fees, processing charges, taxes, international transfer costs, verification payments. Every time she paid one, another appeared. By the time she realized she could not access the money, nearly her entire retirement account was gone. I felt sick for her. Brenda could be difficult, but she was not stupid. She had worked for decades and saved carefully. Since retiring, she had become lonely, and this man had spoken to her every day. He had made her believe he cared about more than her money. Russell said she was too ashamed to tell anyone. She kept believing one final payment might fix everything. I asked, "How much did she lose?" "About $175,000. I gripped the counter. Then I asked the question I was afraid of. "How much did you give her?" He hesitated. "Just under 20,000. I waited for him to correct himself. He didn't. "The transfers I saw don't add up to that. Some came from savings." "Our emergency savings?" He nodded. "And some expenses went on my credit card." "The card we pay from the joint account?" "Yes." I logged in. The more I looked, the worse it became. There were direct transfers to Brenda, larger credit card payments Russell had described as household expenses, and withdrawals from savings that I assumed were related to taxes and repairs. The final total was $19,400. I turned the screen toward him. "Did you think I would never notice?" "I was going to tell you." "When?" "When I figured out how to fix it." "You already decided how to fix it. You plan to use my income." "That's not what I said." "You promised her $1,800 every month." After the mortgage is paid off. We already spend that amount, so our lifestyle wouldn't change. I stared at him. Our lifestyle wouldn't change? You know what I mean. Yes. We finish paying for our house, then instead of building our future, we keep making the same payment to your mother. She has no one else. She owns a house. That's her home. And this is mine. You took nearly $20,000 from it without telling me. He stepped closer. I was trying to help her. Then why didn't you ask me? His answer came immediately. Because you would have said no. Something inside me went quiet. He might have been right. I would not have agreed to hand over $20,000 without questions. I would have wanted to see Brenda's finances, report the scam, and discuss whether she could still afford her house. But I might have helped. Russell never gave me that choice. He decided my consent mattered less than my income. I asked, how long were these monthly payments supposed to continue? He looked confused. She's my mother. That isn't an answer. What do you want me to say? I want to know whether you plan to support her for 1 year, 5 years, or the rest of her life. He looked away. That was my answer. I closed the laptop. I'm sleeping in the guest room. Don't do this. I'm not the one who did this. That night, I kept thinking about every time I had skipped something I wanted because we were trying to finish the mortgage. Every conversation we had about saving more once the house was paid off. While I was planning our future, Russell and Brenda had already reassigned it. The next morning, I transferred exactly half of the remaining joint savings into an account in my name. I redirected my salary and left enough in the joint account for upcoming bills. When Russell found out, he came into the guest room holding his phone. What did you do? I protected half of what's left. You can't move money without discussing it with me. I looked at him. You're right. That would be a terrible thing to do. He called it financial retaliation. I told him I would continue paying my share of every household expense, but I would not allow more money to disappear while we argued about whether I had the right to object. For the next 2 days, we barely spoke. On the third evening, Brenda arrived without warning. Russell had invited her. I knew at the moment I saw 3 cups on the coffee table. She looked exhausted. Her eyes were swollen, and she held her purse against her body with both hands. I'm sorry, she said. I waited. She explained more about Neil. At first, he talked only about money. Over time, the conversations became personal. He remembered details about Russell's childhood. He asked about the years she spent working 2 jobs. He told her she deserved to enjoy retirement after taking care of everyone else. Brenda began crying. I thought he cared about me. I believed her. That was what made the situation so ugly. The scammer had not only promised returns. He had made her feel seen. I moved a box of tissues toward her. For a few minutes, I thought we might have an honest conversation. Then she said, I know the amount sounds terrible, but you two are still young. You can earn it back. I asked, earn what back? The money Russell used to help me. You mean the money he took from our savings? He didn't steal it. He hid it. He was protecting me. From what? From humiliation. No. He was protecting you from hearing an answer you might not like. Russell told me to lower my voice. I wasn't shouting. Brenda reminded me that she had raised Russell alone. She talked about missing school events because she was working, wearing the same coat for years and going without things so he could have what he needed. I did not doubt any of it. Then she said, I would do anything for my son. I thought his wife would understand that. I asked, did you ever plan to tell me about the monthly payments? She looked at Russell. He looked at the floor. We were still discussing it, he said. You sounded finished. We were trying to work out a number that covered the gap. What gap? Brenda's remaining income could cover food, utilities, and basic expenses, but maintaining her house had become difficult. The property taxes, insurance, repairs, and medical costs were more than she could comfortably handle. I asked why she could not sell the 3-bedroom house and move somewhere smaller. Her expression hardened. I am not selling my home. Russell said, that house is all she has left. No, it is a valuable asset. Brenda flinched. That house is where I raised my child. I understand. No, you don't. You don't have children. The room went silent. She had made comments about us not having children before, but they were usually subtle enough for Russell to dismiss. This time, there was no misunderstanding. Russell said, Mom. She wiped her face. I'm only saying she doesn't know what it means to build a home around a family. I stood. I think this conversation is over. I came here to apologize. No. You came here to explain why I should pay for your decision. That's not fair. I turned to Russell. Did you tell her we would redirect our mortgage payment? He did not answer. Brenda did. He said you wouldn't miss it. There was something humiliating about hearing how casually they had discussed my earnings. Then she said, "You make enough that helping me wouldn't change your life." It already changed my marriage. She began crying again. Russell moved to sit beside her. I wasn't angry that he comforted his mother. I was angry that he had not once asked whether I needed comfort after learning he had lied to me for almost a year. I offered a compromise. I would help Brenda meet with a legitimate financial counselor. I would help report the scam, review her benefits, and build a realistic budget. I would even contribute a fixed amount for 6 months while she found a sustainable solution. But I would not agree to support her permanently. Brenda said 6 months was not enough time. Enough time for what? I asked. To recover. Emotionally or financially? She didn't answer. Russell accused me of turning his mother's trauma into a deadline. I asked whether he planned to increase his income to cover her expenses. We're married, he said. Why are you dividing everything into yours and mine? Because you already divided the decision into you and her. Brenda stood and grabbed her purse. I knew you would make me feel like a burden. I'm not asking you to disappear. I'm asking you to use the resources you still have before permanently using mine. She left. Russell followed her outside and stayed gone for almost an hour. When he returned, he looked exhausted. She's devastated. I know. She thinks you hate her. I don't. You could have shown more compassion. I offered 6 months of support, professional help, and my time. You also told her to sell. Because she cannot afford that house. You make everything sound simple. No. I make it sound real. The following morning, I met my friend Holly for coffee. I had avoided telling anyone because I didn't want people judging my marriage based on its worst moment. Once I started talking, though, I couldn't stop. Holly listened, then asked one question. If his mother had never been scammed, would he have told you about the money? No. She nodded. Then the scam explains why he was afraid. It doesn't explain why he decided your consent didn't matter. When I returned home, Russell said he had scheduled a meeting with a financial counselor. For a moment, I felt relieved. Then he added, I need you to promise you won't pressure Mom to sell. I won't promise that. Then what's the point of the meeting? To look at reality. You've already decided what you want. So have you. The financial meeting took place the next week. Brenda arrived with a folder full of statements. Russell sat beside her. I sat across from them. The counselor, Elaine, spent almost 2 hours reviewing everything. Brenda had Social Security, a small retirement benefit, and about $12,000 in savings. Her house had no mortgage and was worth enough for her to purchase a smaller place outright. Elaine explained that Brenda was not without resources. She had a cash flow problem. If she remained in the house, she would need help whenever taxes, repairs, or medical expenses increased. If she sold, she could buy a smaller home, lower her monthly costs, and preserve an emergency fund. Brenda's eyes filled with tears. I knew this was what you were going to say. I'm not telling you what you have to do, Elaine said. I'm explaining the options. Brenda looked at me. This is why she brought me here. Russell had arranged the meeting, but he did not correct her. Elaine then asked about the money Russell had already provided. Brenda became quiet. Was all of it used for living expenses? Elaine asked. Russell turned toward her. What does she mean? Most of it was. Most? Brenda opened her purse and pulled out several folded papers. After the first scam collapsed, someone else contacted her claiming to work for a company that recovered money from fraudulent investments. He promised to retrieve her retirement savings if she paid legal and processing fees. She had sent him nearly $3,000. The money came from the funds Russell had secretly transferred. Russell stared at her. You told me that was for property taxes. I was trying to get everything back. I told you not to send anyone else money. He had documents. So did Neil. Brenda started crying. I thought I could fix it before Paige found out. Russell leaned back in his chair. For the first time, he seemed to understand part of what I had been feeling. His mother had decided that because her intention was good, she had the right to hide what she was doing. It was the same excuse he had used with me. Brenda reached for his arm. I was trying to save you from losing the money you gave me. He pulled his arm away. You used money I took from my marriage to pay another stranger? Elaine gave us a moment. I didn't feel satisfied. I felt tired. Brenda had been manipulated twice, but she had also lied twice. Russell had tried to rescue her, but he had become part of the same pattern. Everyone kept hiding information until the consequences became someone else's emergency. The meeting ended with a plan. Brenda would report both scams and stop communicating with anyone connected to them. She would meet with a realtor to learn what the house could sell for. Russell and I would provide no additional money until her income and expenses were fully documented. In the parking lot, Brenda accused me of enjoying the situation. What part of this do you think I'm enjoying? I asked. You get to be right. I wanted to be wrong. Russell said, Mom, stop. She turned on him. You promised you wouldn't let her make me sell. I didn't know you sent more money. I was trying to repair the damage. So was I. Brenda looked between us. Fine. Both of you can abandon me. She drove away. Russell stood beside his car with his hands in his pockets. For a moment, I could see the boy he must have been. The child who watched his mother work herself exhausted and promised himself he would protect her one day. I understood why he felt responsible. That did not make what he had done acceptable. I'm sorry, he said. It was the first apology he had given me without immediately defending himself. What are you sorry for? For deciding before I asked you. For hiding the money. For telling her you would eventually give in. That last part hurt the most. Then he added, but I still can't let her lose everything. The apology collapsed. She isn't losing everything. She's losing her home. She may have to exchange one home for another. You know what I mean? Yes. You mean her attachment to that house matters more than my ability to trust you. That's not fair. None of this has been fair. 2 days later, I signed a short-term lease on a furnished apartment. I didn't tell Russell until I had the keys. He followed me from room to room while I packed. You're leaving over money? I'm leaving because you still think this is about money. I apologized. You apologized, then repeated the same argument. What do you expect me to do? Let my mother fall apart? I expect you to stop asking me to hold everyone together. He watched me fold clothes into a box. You're punishing us. No. I'm removing myself from a plan I never agreed to. When I carried the first box toward the door, he stood in the hallway. He wasn't threatening. He looked frightened. Paige, don't do this. Move. He stepped aside. I drove to the apartment with half my clothes and a lamp from the guest room. The place was small and impersonal. The couch was uncomfortable, and the kitchen barely had enough room for 2 people. That first night, I sat on the floor eating takeout because I had not unpacked the plates. I cried harder than I had during any of our arguments. Leaving did not feel powerful. It felt like admitting that the life I thought I had might already be gone. Over the next few weeks, Russell paid half the mortgage and covered his personal expenses. He also continued helping Brenda with groceries and insurance. Without my income absorbing most of the household costs, he began falling behind. One evening, he called. I need you to come home. Because you miss me? There was a pause. Of course I miss you. But that isn't why you called. He admitted he could not manage the mortgage, utilities, and Brenda's expenses at the same time. Then you need to make different decisions. She's my mother. Yes, Russell. She is. You know what I mean. I do. He became angry. You're really going to sit there while I drown? You expected me to do it quietly. He ended the call. The next morning, Brenda contacted the realtor. She listed the house 3 weeks later. She blamed me. Russell used softer language. He said my decision to move out had accelerated the sale. The realtor, Martin, found a buyer within a month. The offer was enough for Brenda to purchase a smaller condominium without a mortgage and keep a reasonable emergency fund. The condominium had 2 bedrooms, a small patio, and no yard to maintain. It was close to Russell. Financially, it was the best possible outcome. Brenda treated it like a funeral. On the day she accepted the offer, she called me. I hope you're satisfied. I'm relieved you'll be secure. That isn't the same thing. No. You took my home. I didn't. If you had helped like family should, I wouldn't have needed to sell. I gripped the edge of the counter. You lost your retirement. Russell hid nearly $20,000. You sent part of that money to another stranger. I offered temporary help and professional support. At what point does any of this become your responsibility? She went quiet. Then she said, You've always thought you were better than me. I never thought that. You have money. You have a career. You don't know what it feels like to depend on someone. I almost told her that I knew exactly what it felt like. I had depended on Russell to tell me the truth. Instead, I said, I hope the new place gives you a fresh start. She hung up. Russell and I began counseling soon after. Our counselor, Janet, asked us to describe the problem in 1 sentence. Russell said, My wife left when my mother needed help. I said, My husband secretly spent our money and promised more without asking me. Janet looked at him. Do you hear the difference? He did not answer. During the first few sessions, he kept returning to Brenda's fear and humiliation. Every conversation became an explanation of why she needed protection. Eventually, Janet asked him, "Why do you believe Paige must become financially responsible for every problem your mother cannot solve?" "Because we're a family." "Does being family remove the need for consent?" He looked at the floor. That was the first session where he stopped defending himself. Later, he admitted he knew I might have helped if he approached me honestly. He was afraid I would attach conditions. He did not want Brenda to sell. He did not want her embarrassed. He did not want her to believe he had failed her. So he chose the solution that protected his relationship with his mother and transferred the consequences to me. Hearing him finally say that mattered. It did not repair everything, but it was the first time he named what he had done without hiding behind good intentions. Brenda moved into the condominium 2 months after the sale. Her income now covers her regular expenses. Her emergency fund is kept in an account that is harder to access impulsively, and Russell checks any financial requests she receives. She still tells some relatives that I forced her out of her home. A few believe her. Others stopped criticizing me after learning she had sent money to a second scammer. Russell began taking on extra work and rebuilding the emergency fund he used. He has repaid a little more than half. We are still separated. I have not filed for divorce, but I have not moved home. Russell wants me to return once the savings are restored. He believes that will prove he understands. I'm not sure money can prove that. I miss our old life. I miss waking up beside him, our quiet dinners, and the stupid shows we watched together. I miss believing the person I loved would protect our future as carefully as I did. Then I remember standing in the hallway with my suitcase while he told his mother I did not know how to say no. That was what changed me. Not the scam. Not even the $19,000. It was hearing how certain he was that my boundaries were temporary. That my anger could be managed. That my income belonged to the family, but my opinion did not. Brenda now has a home she can afford. Russell is paying back what he took. And I have learned that peace can feel lonely before it begins to feel safe. I don't know whether my marriage will survive. Russell says he has changed. Some days, I believe him. Other days, I wonder whether he only changed because I stopped making his choices affordable. Was I really abandoning my family, or was I finally refusing to let them spend the rest of my life without asking me?